Cartoons, the animated frontier. These are the voyages of the Cellcast podcast. Its continuing mission to explore strange new cartoons, to seek out new animation styles and new creative storytelling methods, to boldly go where so few ever go again.
Programs, and welcome to another episode of the Cellcast. Joining me today is a program who all he wants to do is draw, but unfortunately I don't think we have any drawing programs in this movie. So welcome, Jacob.
Very sad program indeed. Why, thank you, and let me introduce our co-program, a program who just likes to play frisbee. Welcome, Drew.
Well, it's just so easy to do, and it's fun to make the dog programs try to chase after it. You would know a lot about that, wouldn't you?
Exactly.
And joining us on this episode is a good friend of ours, a program who he just enjoys playing games. Welcome, Chase.
Oh, thank you very much. Very glad to be here. And it's always great to be with my fellow programs, Jacob, a program that writes so poorly that he won't even remember how I started this sentence, and Drew, who is so Trekkie that he only reads his Bible in the original Klingon.
Wow. I need to look up some translations.
Wow.
So I can edit them in there.
I don't know if that was love or a slap in the face.
It's the most interesting one we've had so far. I'll give you that.
That is true. Oh my gosh.
You hurt the ones you love.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Wow.
So, Chase, who are you?
Who am I?
Why should we care?
Yeah. Why should you care? Well, I don't care whether you care or not, because I am a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. That means I'm a preacher, for those of you that don't speak theologian. And so, anyway, so the Lord has called me to a ministry. I pastor a very small church in East Texas called Glen Fawn Baptist Church, and I'm very glad to be here and with my friends, guys I've known for several years who knew me before I was a preacher. Mm-hmm. So anyway, thanks guys for having me.
Continue with the interrogation, if you would.
All right, so...
Is an inquisition.
Yeah, maybe, just a little bit. All right, so for most of the people who listen, whenever we have a guest, we have a little battery of questions. And so with Chase, prepare to get batteried.
Well, you need the power, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Guys, y'all are in Bible study with me. You know
yes, I forget.
You know
this is revenge. A dish best served cold.
Guys,
it's very cold.
Don't you understand? Haven't y'all figured out by now? I'm the preacher, Energizer Bunny. I just keep going and going and going.
That is so true. All right, so Chase,
give me these questions.
All right. Okay, number one. What was the first anime movie you saw in theaters?
This is why we don't tell you.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a really hard one because when I started getting into anime, there was no idea of the anime in theaters. It was
any animated thing.
Animated movie.
I
think he said anime, but he meant animated.
Yeah,
okay,
animated.
Okay.
That's what
first one I can clearly remember was The Black Cauldron.
Ooh,
that's a good one.
That would have been
awesome
awesome
to
to
see
watch.
that one.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that in the theater with my dad. My dad took me when I was a little kid, and he was afraid it was a little too scary, and I think he was right.
Yeah. Wow.
Because that was one of the darkest films Disney ever did, and they canned it for 20-something years.
Yeah,
something like that.
It finally came on DVD a couple years ago.
Before they finally admitted that they actually had that.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so which animated series or movie do you find yourself rewatching frequently?
Oh, that's easy. Robotech.
Robotech
was the anime. That was actually for my generation, which I'm about 42. That was the anime that a lot of us got started on back in 1985. Of course, I won't go into all the details about Robotech, but that first aired in America. It was like the second anime ever aired in America. I think Star Blazers was the first. and then Speed Racer came in later, I think. But anyway,
I was trying to think when would Speed Racer.
Yeah,
actually
it
come
was
out.
it was very early too.
I know the
so.
original footage is like 60s, but
Right,
Yeah.
but it didn't come to America until
Right.
later. So anyway, so
Like late
80,
70s.
85, 86, Robotech hits, and it's this incredible sci-fi transforming robot thing, and actually started the transforming robot craze in America because it predates Transformers by a year or two.
right.
And anyway, so yeah, that was the first big kickoff anime that really got me sucked into all this.
Okay.
All right.
Excellent. All right. So, with Valentine's Day just around the corner, if you had a special lady, what animated movie would you watch to celebrate the special day?
Oh, Summer Wars.
That's a good choice.
Summer Wars. Okay.
Now that's a good one. If you haven't seen Summer Wars, go watch Summer Wars. What
Yeah.
what an
That is the
incredible.
most underrated movie I know.
Agreed.
It really
Point.
is. It really is because it is a animated movie about family.
Yes.
Agreed.
And it does what most animes would never even dare to try. It throws about 30 different characters at you, and it gives them to you in such a way that you actually remember them and you quickly fall in love with them.
Yes.
Because normally most anime can't handle more than 5 characters over 12, 13 episodes to develop them.
True.
And this thing actually develops 20, 30 characters simultaneously and does an amazing job of doing
Agreed.
so.
Yeah, I agree.
Not bad for the guy who directed Digimon.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
not bad at all.
No, so if you are interested in listening to our full review on Summer Wars, we do have it in our
That's season 1,
yeah,
I believe.
Yeah, go check that out. It's a really good show. I got to watch it for the first time. Amazing. So yeah, going on to let's throw this to our co-host. What would you think would be if you had a significant other, you had a lady love in your life, what movie would you watch during the special day?
Weathering with You.
Wow. Okay, that's really good.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go a little old school. Lady and the Tramp.
Fair.
That's pretty old school. That is
Yeah.
pretty old school. So.
All right. So, number 4. Which animated character that you find yourself connected to the most? Are you find that you connect more with this character?
Gosh, that one has changed so much over the years. Because again, my first major influence was Robotech, so many of the
Right.
characters in there were very large to me as a child. Today, who do I cannot think of his name. I think it's Lynx. I think it's his last name. It's the character from Zone of the Enders. In Zone, Bosco.
I don't
Okay, so
remember his name either.
yeah, it's something Lynx. Anyway, so in Zone of the Enders, the main character is very unusual for an anime because the main character is like 50 years old, and he's a father, and his wife is dead, and he's got 2 children that are estranged from him, and he spends half this anime trying to rebuild his family on the eve of the very first interstellar space war. And it's an incredible anime. It's humor, it's funny, it's sad, but I can really identify with this older man character. Of course, like I said, that's how my taste have changed over the years.
Yeah.
But John Lynx, I think it is, or George Lynx. I can't remember.
Okay.
And I may be wrong about the name. It's been a while since I've watched it.
Okay.
But the main character from Zone of the Enders.
Yeah, main
Okay.
character from Zone of the Enders.
All right. So my 5th question would be, if you had the opportunity to watch any animated movie in theaters which you had not seen in theaters before, which movie would that be?
I guess I would watch the original Macross.
Okay.
Never seen that in theater.
Okay, interesting. All right, so
Robotech season 1.
Sort of, not exactly.
Oh, okay.
Because it was actually a Macross movie.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I was
Yeah.
gonna ask for a little more
Well,
clarification.
it was one of the original. It was one of those that was really groundbreaking because it really showed space as a hard science, as opposed to the more X-wing style flying, whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I think that'd be my answer.
Okay, excellent. And 6th and final, if you were stranded on a lonely island and you had one animated series that you could...
Tenchi GXP.
I knew that.
I wasn't finished yet.
All right, go ahead.
All right. that isn't anime.
Is an anime?
Isn't.
not.
Is not an anime. An
Is
animated
not
series.
anime.
Okay, so an animated series that is not anime.
Exactly. Make it a little more challenging for you.
Pirates of Dark Water.
Ooh.
It's not hard.
Okay.
No, okay.
And you still need to watch that.
Oh,
That
I
is
know.
good. that is good.
That was Hanna-Barbera's last one, and I tell you what, it grieves me they did not finish it, but they just weren't making enough money on it.
Gee, that sounds horribly
Familiar.
familiar. Like a certain show we just got done reviewing on animated series,
Ow. Exactly.
Thundercats.
Yes, I'm aware.
2011.
I'm aware.
I wasn't sure if you remembered.
No,
Okay.
yeah, and it was one season of that, and everybody is still angry about that.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
yeah,
Stupid
that
toy
could have been so much, but
Yes.
anyway, yeah, it's
It's
hard.
amazing how angry I am at it, even though I was not in the midst of it when it got canceled, and I'm still angry.
yes, I get it.
10 years later.
Oh, come on, us Firefly fans are still angry about that one too. So,
Well, at least you got a comic
fair.
out of it.
And you got a movie.
Yeah.
yes, we did, and that was a fan driven project because canceled TV shows don't become movies.
That is true. I still haven't seen all of that series. I've seen maybe a small handful of them.
Oh my gosh, you heathen!
I still need to sit down and finish it. I've seen 6 episodes of what, 24?
I know there was only like 13 episodes.
Oh, I'm halfway there.
Yeah.
All right, so one final one. This is more of a last minute one. Which animated studio would you prefer to watch? Like a Studio or the now debunked Blue Sky?
What name the first one again?
Leica.
I don't even know what they made.
Paranorman, Coraline,
And-
and
Kubo
and the Two Strings, and then there's something else.
Yeah, give me Ice Age. Give me Ice Age. That's much better.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
That will be a point we will agree to disagree on.
Okay, fine.
Because Kubo I still enjoy.
Yeah, Kubo was good. There again, we did review that, so go check it out.
Yes. And Coraline was
And
good.
Coraline was amazing.
Hey, we're down to 3 viewers.
Yes.
Okay,
We're
only
scaring
3
people off.
Only 3 more of you to get rid of.
Slowly but surely. All right. So,
The guests that killed the show.
since you are our guest,
All right, so I just had a commenter just post up. This comes from stop it.
and for some reason it's not another thing. Oh, it's
No,
it's in your watch party.
It's popping on my watch party. Johnny Adams says Speed Racer aired in the U.S. in 1967.
Oh,
Huh. Did not know that.
So
I guess so. It was
that
the
is-
first anime then in
Yes.
America.
close
Then
enough.
it must have gone Speed Racer, Star Blazers, and then Robotech.
Yes.
Right. That's fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Chase, since you are our guest, I get to ask you the question first.
Okay.
What have you been watching recently?
What have I been watching recently? I was afraid you were going to ask me that. Well, I've been watching a bit of the new season, and unfortunately, it has been so blah that almost none of them have stood out to me at all.
The new anime season.
The new
to be
anime
specific.
season. Yes, sorry. The new anime season. The only one that I'm actually interested in right now is So I Was Reincarnated as a Spider.
Ah.
Spider. Huh.
Yes.
Oh, isn't it called I'm a spider now, so what?
Yeah, that's what it's called. I'm
Yeah.
a spider now, so what? That's right. Anyway, that's actually been pretty decent. I went and looked up the manga, started reading the manga. No, watch the anime. Anime's better.
Okay. All right.
Manga is too drawn out. Yes.
Yes. That happens.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the anime so far, the pacing, a lot of times what you have is with a manga is the manga goes deeper and shows more and does more and of course has more time. And so the manga typically is better, just like the book is better. This was a case where the manga was too long, too drawn out, and the anime has abbreviated it and reordered the events to make it, frankly, a lot more interesting to watch. So I'm enjoying it.
Unlike a manga I've read, which was actually shorter than the anime.
Yeah.
But that's Dragon Ball for you.
Ooh. Yes. Yes, it is.
Just a little bit. Wow.
So, Jacob, what have you been watching?
What have I been watching? So, I've gotten a few commissions for Art Wise. So that's I just recently finished watching Trigun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, you finished it.
I finished Trigun for
Okay.
like the second time. They're like amazing series. Yeah, go watch it. It's very. Where can you watch it now? I think it's on Funimation.
Yeah, Funimation's got the rights to it right
Yeah,
now. So
Funimation
I think
has
you can watch it on their site.
Yeah, you can go watch it there. It's an amazing series. If you haven't watched it. Let me think. What else have I watched? The series I really want to go back and revisit, I haven't watched yet in the longest time, was probably Big O.
Came out
in, like,
wow! I haven't seen that one in a long
the
time.
2000s. Oh my god!
I only watched season 1 because I started season 2 and it's like, this isn't the show I liked.
That's what I keep hearing. And what else? I think that's it. I'm drawing a blank on if I've watched anything else, but yeah, I watched Kong Skull Island for our other podcast.
Mm-hmm. So did I.
It's a lot better than I originally thought. Other than that, I think we're good. What about you, Drew?
I have been watching, of course. I'm still going through Phineas and Ferb. I'm halfway through season 3.
Mm-hmm.
And outside of Kong Skull Island, which I also watched, mostly what I have been doing is playing games. Those of you who are on our Twitch, who do watch the Twitch live stream of me playing Final Fantasy XIV, knows I'm working through the New Game Plus of that game. And I think I've decided, since they announced the expansion at the end that's coming out in the fall, that I'm probably going to want to play that too. I'm just going to play all the way through and stream the whole thing. So come and join me. Waste my life, I think. Also, I picked up Mega Man 2 on the Switch. I've been playing on their Legacy collection.
The NES Mega Man? That was the only one I think I ever really played. I tried some of the others and hated them, and it was Mega Man 2 that...
Right. Well,
that was a hard game, by the way.
It's a lot easier with the rewind feature. I will admit I am taking advantage of the rewind feature.
Okay. That does,
so when I get
cool.
close, when I die, I just back up. It's like, okay, I'm messing up this boss fight. I'm just going to go back to the hallway. Try again.
Oh, I hate it.
It's a lot easier, especially the disappearing block puzzles are a lot easier when you don't have to replay everything up to that point to figure out where you missed your jump.
That sounds a lot more fun, actually.
Before, I think I maybe got through 3 levels before I gave up. I actually have beaten 7 levels.
Wow, okay.
And I'm not quite to Dr. Wily yet.
Because I did it as a kid, and that was the killer, was you miss a jump, and you just don't want to replay the last 15 minutes.
Right, and that's assuming you wrote the password down correctly.
Right, and funny how hard that actually was to write it down correctly.
Well, you look at Mega Man passwords, they're headache-inducing.
Yes.
So thankfully, I have save states too. But that's pretty much what I've been doing. So, Jacob, what do we got in the news?
All right, so what do we have in the news? The official YouTube channel for Ghostbusters released the pilot episode of the real Ghostbusters last I want to say September, but Saturday. And man, that just draws you back to your childhood, the 1990s, and or correction, like the early 1990s. And it was so much fun. It was not granted, I'm only watching on your phone, but still, it's just so nostalgia was just oozing, and just fun and just excitement. And they recently just announced that they are releasing the Extreme Ghostbusters this Wednesday, so tomorrow.
Nice.
So
that was the one I watched.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay.
I think I actually saw both of them. So anyway.
Yeah.
But it's been so long ago, I don't really remember either one of them. So I should go check this out.
All right. So if we're going into news and stuff, all right. So there's a certain company that likes to reissue series and horror films. And
are you referring to Shout Factory?
Yes, I'm referring to Shout Factory. Thank you very much. All right, so Shout Factory has recently collaborated with Leica Studios to release their first four award-winning films: Kubo and the Two Strings of 2016, The Box Trolls 2014, Paranoia in 2012, and Coraline in 2009. There hasn't been a release date for this yet.
So, doesn't the original... I'm just asking because I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't the original distributors still have the rights to distribute that movie?
I don't
know. Movies? Why is Shout Factory getting them? That's odd.
I guess they got the...
Unless their contracts, I guess, expired.
Yeah, they must have lapsed.
Maybe, and Shout Factory, I guess, is paying better. Or maybe Shout Factory is paying.
I guess
that
so.
could happen, too.
Yeah, that's
Don't
true.
get me wrong. All 4 of those movies are good, but
Yeah,
actually, I haven't seen Box Trolls or Paranorman, so maybe I shouldn't say that.
yeah. I've watched 2 of them.
Yes.
All right.
The
so
2 we've reviewed.
yes, the 2 we reviewed.
Same here.
Yes. All right. So our last bit of news, and sadly enough, though, Disney has decided to close down Blue Sky Studios.
This is the first time I think we've had a studio close on us while the podcast has been
Yes.
active. And I'm going to be honest, I am not a fan of Blue Sky Studios because most of their stuff has been kind of so-so.
Mm-hmm.
But I still hate to see an animation studio close, and I hate all those people now being out of work and having to go get hired on somewhere else, especially since I don't think there are any other animation studios in Connecticut where they've been based. But I just want to kind of go over quickly some of the cool things that Blue Sky has done that I don't
Yes.
think most of us know about.
Yeah.
Did you know they were one of the first people to actually use ray tracing in a animated feature?
I heard about that.
Yeah.
For those
Disney,
of us,
Disney likes to say, "Oh, Monsters University was the first one where we actually used all this stuff." No, it's just the first time where Pixar used it.
okay, for those of us not in the know, what is ray tracing?
Okay, so in the old days of computer animation, they used a technique called what is it called? Scanline rendering.
Okay.
Scanline rendering essentially means it's a 3-dimensional object, and how bright or dark you make it is how much light is on it.
Okay.
That's the old way of doing it. That's how Toy Story was done. Give you an idea. Ray tracing is where the computer, you point out to the computer where your light source is, and it traces where the theoretical rays of light are pointing.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so you have to also tell it, what type of surface is this reflecting on? Is this on? What all this other kind of stuff. It provides a much better lighting surface, but it's also something they didn't have for a long time.
Right.
And they had it in 1998.
Wow. That's
Pixar, to put this another
that's
way.
3 years after the internet showed up, guys.
Yeah, put this another way. The one that Disney puts out everything, Monsters University, I believe was 2012.
Wow.
That's how long it took Pixar to get this technology in their system.
I still haven't seen Monsters University.
It's a good movie.
Okay. I'll have to go
You're
check
not
it
the
out.
only one.
You like college movies, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a college movie.
Okay, it's a college movie.
In the Monsters
So it's
universe.
Animal House with real monsters.
Pretty much. Honestly, that is the best description, except I actually like this movie. I don't like Animal House.
Oh, for shame,
I just don't. I couldn't finish. I got to the zit and I turned it off.
I'm sorry. The scene where they kill the horse.
I didn't get that far.
Oh, you've robbed yourself.
I don't think I'm a fan of John Belushi. That's all it comes down to.
Come on, he was on every drug known to man during that movie. Come on.
None of this surprises me.
At all.
Actually, it was Blues Brothers. He was on every drug known to man.
But that movie I like.
Yeah.
Not 2000, but I think he was dead by then.
He was.
Yeah, he did not live long after that movie.
No,
All
he
right.
did not.
So, yeah. So, I mean, they've put out 13 movies.
Yes.
Since, and we've only reviewed one of them so far, which was Spies in Disguise.
Yeah.
Won't get into that.
Yeah. Go listen to our review of that.
Yeah. I think we do need to at least get some other ones on the list, because I do
Yeah,
remember
agreed.
stuff like the Peanuts movie was good.
Yes. I still want to watch that. one.
Horton Hears a Who, they did a good job. Much better than Illumination has done. in my
Wait.
opinion.
Y'all have not reviewed Ice Age yet?
We've not reviewed Ice Age
No,
yet.
we haven't.
Oh, the shame. The shame.
In my defense, I don't own a copy.
that could be, that could be a
and
problem.
it's only recently shown up on Disney Plus.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's possible now. It's just none of Blue Sky's movies were quick on our lists.
All
we
right.
weren't.
All right. Be that way.
We'll get to it. Trust me, we will get to it. As we say on our other show, we'll get there when we get there.
And then we got to talk about the animated movies from the 80s.
And the
Yes, there
70s.
were animated movies in the
I
80s.
know there were animated movies in the
And they're
80s.
drawing-
We've done a couple of them. I'm curious where this is going, because Blue Sky didn't have any animated
No,
movies in
I'm
the
just
80s.
I'm just talking about.
Actually, I say that because here's the thing. Do you know who founded Blue Sky Studios?
No, I don't.
5 guys and one lady, who worked for
Wait, is it-
Magi in the early 80s.
Yeah.
Who did some of the special effects on Tron. So weirdly, it's connected.
Yeah.
All right, that was
More
a
on that
very
later.
large circuit
Exactly.
to bring us back to. But
It
okay,
happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
all right.
So we have anything else to add before we jump into the spoiler-free section?
Not that I know of.
All right. So we're going to jump into spoiler-free section for the movie Tron. What are your spoiler-free thoughts?
My spoiler-free thoughts. I
For
think,
this
honestly,
nearly
I think this
40-year-old
is
movie.
Well, yeah, no. It really, well, it's what 38 years.
Yeah.
No, 39,
It's
39
It's
years.
one of those where
Yeah.
I look at it and go, I'm getting old.
This movie came out the same year I was born. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
you young child, you.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And I'm worse.
okay, my thoughts.
I was born the year Robotech came out.
Okay, we're not going to get into that. All right. Well, my thoughts are actually that this is, quite frankly, one of the most creative films ever attempted that was successful. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't mean it was successful in its day. I mean that it has withstood the test of time and has been very successful in regards to what it is as a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the visuals that they created were not only unique; they've never been replicated. It really,
For a very good reason.
well, yes,
We'll get into that.
yes,
Yes.
but I don't mean simply how it was done.
Yes.
I just mean that the art style, the creativeness, and what they were endeavoring to do. And I'll talk about that more later during our spoiler section. But yeah, it's an astounding movie. It's an absolutely astounding movie. It has a level of creativity in it that you just flat out do not see in other modern movies with bigger budgets and more,
That's
special
true.
effects.
So just a quick question before we move on to Jacob. When was the first time you saw this movie?
I was probably 10 years old. My mother had married my stepfather, and he had this movie. And of course, as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old kid, the Tron cover caught my eye because that
Yeah.
it was a live action movie that had a cartoony cover, and I was kind of like, well, what is this? And he said, that's Tron, and he put it on, and that was amazing.
Right.
So
was
my 10, 11-year-old brain was just blown.
I can imagine that.
Ah.
So Jacob, this is your first viewing of this movie,
Yes,
correct?
it is.
Tell us what you think.
Honestly, I was blown away by it. The fact that like you have how many seconds? There was maybe a minute and a half of animation.
20 minutes total for the entire movie of computer-generated
Yeah,
animation.
computer generated. That's incredible for a movie in that early the 80s.
I really should say computer-generated imagery. We'll get to that.
Yeah, but the fact of how they use every trick in the book to create this film, and it has a very interesting story. It has now if you're not taking it for the time period which it was created, you watch it now, it's like, man, this is the most janky movie ever. But if you're taking it for just consideration, the creativity in this movie, it's mind-blowing. It's absolutely incredible how this movie is made. And it's sad that, and we'll get into this more in info and stuff, that it bombed in the theaters. And it later on gave a life of its own in its distribution.
Yeah.
But overall, it's a phenomenal film visually. I have a few problems story beat wise, but other than that, it's a really good movie.
I didn't see this movie until about 15 years ago, and I've probably seen it about 5 times now, and I kind of want to make it a 6th. But we'll
Good
do
man,
that.
good man.
We'll do that later. I know the first time I watched it, it was after I had heard this new movie was coming out called Tron Legacy. And I knew nothing about what Tron Legacy was going to be. I knew nothing about Tron. I just knew it was this thing. I had played the level in Kingdom Hearts. That tells you nothing. Actually, that's the thing. I played because the way that game is set up, the first half has almost nothing to do with the movie. The second half, at least you are fighting the climax of the movie. Yeah. So there is that at least. But I mean, I just remember this being a goofy looking thing, and I just did not get the first time I watched it. I didn't get it.
Okay.
I can't tell you why I didn't get it, but I remember I enjoyed it.
Okay.
I liked it. And so I watched it again, like right before Tron Legacy came out, and I was into it more. And then was disappointed by Tron Legacy, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
I'll still need to watch the film.
And
It's,
then I
it's
think
good. It's good.
and
It's
I
just
saw it a
not
couple-
the original.
Right, and I've seen it a couple more times since then, but this time I was watching it, and somehow it blew me away more this time than any of the other 4 times I've watched it. And maybe it's because I'd done some reading
Right,
and
right.
saw how much work went into this movie, but this is a wholly unique movie.
Yeah.
For more reasons than one, and it's when you get right down to it, I can tell you the reason I don't like Tron Legacy as much as I like this, and that's because Tron Legacy is not this. It's its own thing too, if we're being honest. But
It is. It is.
this to me is the better movie, and I enjoy it if for no other reason. It has a good serious story, and it's cheesy and popcorny fun too. So yeah, and plus, I grew up. I wasn't around for the computer games of this era, but there's still enough of that nostalgia for games of this era that I kind of make me feel warm and fuzzy. So yeah, that is my thoughts on this. Do we have anything else before we hit the CGC bumper and head into our spoiler section?
Yeah. Just one quick note. There are only 2 viewers left, guys. I've gotten rid of most of your audience.
What's crazy is they've come in and out
Yes.
a couple times.
Yeah.
So
All right.
so-
Two of y'all, I have to run off left. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
actually, I don't think you run one of them off. I think he had to go get ready for his own thing here in about 45 minutes.
Poor guy.
Yeah. So yeah, join us on the other side of the bumper, and we will get to spoiling this thing.
Yep.
Ray? We're wrong? Okay. This progress is a part of Christian Reek Central Network. Wrong.
Hey, Scoop, what are you doing, man?
I don't know. I'm supposed to be reading an ad.
All right, hold on. Give me it.
Okay.
All right. This podcast is part of the Christian Geek Central Network at christiangeekcentral.com.
There you can find a collection of blogs and podcasts working together to bring you some of the best content on the web for Christian geeks, such as The Untold Podcast. Engaging the culture's imagination, The Untold Podcast presents free speculative fiction every month from a Christian worldview. The Untold Podcast aims to recapture the power of story and use the weirder genres to do it. Science fiction, fantasy, horror, and supernatural stories serve as metaphors for our lives. The distant star systems, the shining nights, the abominable yetis, and the ghosts remind us of our own struggles, triumphs, and losses. Each month features a new story in flash fiction presented in a unique and dynamic way. The producer and narrator of the podcast is Nathan James Norman, an author, pastor, and theologian living in northern Michigan. The following is a spoiler-filled review for the movie Tron. Listener discretion is advised. Tron was written and directed by Steven Lisberger. And the main thing I saw that he had done besides this was something called the Animalympics, which was apparently, so you know, in the 1980s, we technically didn't go to the Olympics because we were boycotting somebody.
We were boycotting the Soviet Union.
Soviet
more
Union,
than-
yes.
Yeah.
Well,
I actually
the
remember that.
Animalympics were aired in their place.
Pretty much.
How interesting.
Yes. And you can go and watch it. It's like 2 hours because it's a movie.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a weird thing. I've watched part of it. It's weird. It was also written by Bonnie McBird, who she wrote a documentary in 2002 called Squeakers, which was a documentary about teaching math and science using computers. And that is the only other thing she's done.
Wow.
She was the one who did the screenplay for this. And then Charles S. Haas, he wrote the story that this is all based on, or not the story the screenplay is based on. And the only other thing he had written of any note was Gremlins 2: The New Batch.
Okay, I happen to like that movie.
Yeah. That's
But
a funny
still,
movie
it's
to
like
watch.
you look at it and you go, this explains a lot. And
Well-
yet it also does not explain a lot.
Well, you have a group of people that were uncontaminated by previous movie making
Yes.
experience.
True.
Yes, no
And-
one
and
could
tr-
tell them no.
Right. And for this movie, that was essential.
Now, there is one person who actually did work on some other things.
Okay.
This was actually one of her last things that she did, and that was Wendy Carlos, who did the music. She previously composed the music in The Shining.
Okay.
Also, Journey did 2 songs, Only Solutions and 1990s Theme.
Well, I'll be darned. Huh. I'll have to go look those up.
Yes. Getting into the cast, Kevin Flynn and Clue was played by Jeff Bridges.
Yeah.
He is, of course, the dude in The Big Lebowski. And he played Prince Lear in The Last Unicorn, which we still need to do.
Yes.
Al-
I did not know he did Prince Lear in The Last
Yes.
Unicorn. I'll be darned.
I had to look for animated stuff because he doesn't have a lot.
Right. But I know he did that.
Right. Alan Bradley and Tron were played by Bruce Boxleitner.
Yeah.
And I had to include Captain John Sheridan in Babylon 5 because I knew you were on the show.
Oh, yes. I would have made a point if you had not
I
mentioned
figured. Also, did you know there was a How the West Was Won TV series?
that. I did not.
No.
He played Luke McKayan in that.
Okay. Well, a lot of the older actors got started in Hollywood as westerns. So
So Ed Dillinger, Sark, and the Master Control Program were played by David Warner. He played Spicer Lovejoy in Titanic. However, I think all 3 of us know him better as Chancellor Gorkon in Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country.
True.
Laura and Yori was played by Cindy Morgan. She played a character named Lacey Underall in Caddyshack, and that's really all I could find for her.
wow. Okay.
Dr. Walter Gibbs and Dumont, and the version of the MCP we see at the end of the after the
Yeah, I
crowd
was,
thing
I
goes
was
down.
wondering who that was. Yeah.
He was played by Bernard Hughes, who played the grandpa in Lost Boys.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay,
One of
now
my
I'm
favorite
seeing
all
it, yeah.
time 80s movies.
Yes.
Ram and the popcorn coworker was played by Dan Shore, and he played Billy the Kid in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Oh.
Well,
okay.
I'll be darned. Small
gotcha.
world.
Crom was played by Peter Jurasik, and if I said that wrong, I expect you to tell me better because you know him as Londo Malari in Babylon 5.
Oh my gosh, I did not realize that.
And Bit was played by a Votrax speech synthesizer by Votrax International, and that voice was used in Type and Talk software and the Unix Speak command.
Wow.
Huh.
And there was only one Kingdom Hearts connection for this, and that was Bruce Boxleitner, who reprised his role as Tron in Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
No one from, well, that's Tron Legacy. We won't go into that. What do we got in info and stuff?
All right, so info and stuff. You can currently watch this movie on Disney Plus. Rating wise, it has a 6.8 out of 10 on
IMDb.
Thank you. I knew I was going to get that wrong. I always do. It has a 72% on Rotten Tomatoes and 69% of an audience score. Production companies was the Walt Disney Productions, Leichtbacher. How do you pronounce that?
Wasn't it Listberger?
Listberger Kasser Production. Distribution by Buena Vista Distribution. Is released on July 9th, 1982. Had a budget of $17 million. Its opening weekend, it made $4 million.
It could be better.
It could be a lot better.
I wish it was a lot better.
Yeah. Its U.S. domestic gross was $33 million. Its worldwide gross was only $50 million. And so, yeah, it sounds like it made a budget, but financially it failed.
Right.
Because
right.
Yeah.
you're looking at promotions, you're looking at everything in order to get this movie out in theaters, and
It makes a lot of sense because of what kind of movie this is, and we're talking 1982.
yes,
People in 1982 did not know what computers were.
that is true.
That is very true.
And that brings up some points that I will get into later.
All right.
All right, so going forward, Tron was originally released on VHS, Betamax, Laserdisc, and one I have never heard of, CED video disc.
I know this. It's
Is that Laserdisc?
no, it's a capacitance disc. It's a
Okay, it was one of the.
It was one of those formats.
It was one of those
that did not last
Yeah, it was one of those
long.
transitory technologies that
I
didn't
gotcha.
last.
In 1983.
It did worse than Betamax.
Ooh,
wow.
ouch! Wow.
There's like
Wow.
not that many movies that were released on it.
All right, so by 1992, Tron had grossed its budget bag in $17 million in video rentals. So Tron saw its first time on DVD on March 19th, 1998. In 2002, the film was released on the 20th anniversary on a 2-disc DVD set and a special DVD release for the first time on Blu-ray on April 5th, 2011, which was subtitled The Original Classic. And then later on, it was released on a 5-disc Blu-ray combo with 3D for Tron Legacy. And the film was re-released on Blu-ray and DVD on the UK in 2011. So yeah, this movie it's been through the ringer, and it's definitely made its money back with its cult status as a film. Following its sequels, because it actually does sequels. You have Tron.
I would hope so.
Yeah, Tron Uprising, which is the animated series.
Very good.
Takes place during the time period between the first two films, and then you have in 2010 with its sequel, a Tron Legacy.
Yes,
And
also
there has been a long-running announcement for Tron 3 that has never technically been canceled.
Yeah.
yeah, we're waiting on that one. So
I have a bad feeling we're gonna have to wait a while, even though I
Yeah,
want it
yeah.
out right now.
I would go to a infected theater to watch that.
I would go to an infected theater for a lot less. All right, so getting into the summary. Kevin Flynn is a leading software engineer formerly employed by the computer corporation Encom, who now runs a video game arcade and attempts to hack into Encom's mainframe system. However, Encom's Master Control Program, or MCP, halts his progress. Within Encom, programmer Alan Bradley and his girlfriend, engineer Laura Baines, discover that the MCP has closed off their access to projects. When Alan confronts the senior executive vice president, Ed Dillinger, Dillinger claims that the security measures are an effort to stop outside hacking attempts. However, when Dillinger privately questions the MCP through his computerized desk, which is awesome, he realizes the MCP has expanded into a powerful virtual intelligence and has become power-hungry, illegally appropriating personal, business, and government programs to increase its own capabilities. The MCP blackmails Dillinger with information about his plagiarizing Flynn's games if he does not comply with its directives. Laura deduces that Flynn is the hacker, and she and Alan go to the arcade to warn him. Flynn reveals that he has been trying to locate evidence proving Dillinger's plagiarism, which launched Dillinger's rise in the company. Together, the three form a plan to break into Encom and unlock Alan's Tron program, a self-governing security measure designed to protect the system and counter the functions of the MCP. Once inside Encom, the three split up, and Flynn comes into direct conflict with the MCP, communicating with his terminal. Before Flynn can get the information he needs to reveal Dillinger's acts, the MCP uses an experimental laser to digitize and download Flynn into Encom's mainframe cyberspace, where programs are living entities appearing in the likeness of the human users, programmers, who created them. Flynn learns that the MCP and its second-in-command, Sark, rule and coerce programs to renounce their belief in the users. The MCP forces programs that resist to play in deadly games and begins pitting Flynn in duels. Flynn meets other captured programs, RAM and Tron, between matches. Partnered, the three escape into the mainframe using a light cycle, an arcade game Flynn is skilled at, probably because he programmed it, match, but Flynn and RAM become separated by Tron and an MCP pursuit party. While attempting to help RAM, who was wounded in the pursuit, Flynn learns that he can manipulate portions of the mainframe by accessing his programmer knowledge. RAM recognizes Flynn as a user and encourages him to find Tron and free the system before derezzing. Using his new ability, Flynn rebuilds a vehicle and disguises himself as one of Sark's soldiers. Tron enlists help from Yuri, a sympathetic program, and an I.O. tower receives information from Alan necessary to destroy the MCP. Flynn rejoins them, and the three board a hijacked solar sailor to reach the MCP's core. However, Sark's command ship destroys the sailor, capturing Flynn and Yori and presumably killing Tron. Sark leaves the command ship and orders its de-resolution, but Flynn keeps it intact by again manipulating the mainframe. While Sark reaches the MCP's core on a shuttle carrying captured programs. While the MCP attempts to absorb captive programs, Tron, who turns out to have survived, confronts Sark and critically injures him, prompting the MCP to give him all its functions. Realizing that his ability to manipulate the mainframe gives Tron an opening, Flynn leaps into the beam of the MCP, distracting it. Seeing the break in the MCP shield, Tron attacks through the gap and destroys the MCP and Sark, ending the MCP's control over the mainframe and allowing the captured programs to communicate with users again. Flynn reappears in the real world, rematerialized at his terminal. Tron's victory in the mainframe has released all lockouts on computer access, and a nearby printer produces the evidence that Dillinger has plagiarized Flynn's creations. The next morning, Dillinger enters his office to find the MCP deactivated and the proof of his theft publicized. Flynn is subsequently promoted to CEO of Encom and is happily greeted by Alan and Laura as their new boss. So getting into the trivia for this, just as a quick guess, how many animation companies do you think worked on this?
I know a company in Taiwan did, because there's quite a few Taiwan credits.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think they did the bulk work.
They did all the 2D work.
I have no idea how
There
many.
were a total of 5 animation companies that worked on this.
That is nuts.
Wow, that's
that
crazy.
would be Information International Incorporated of Culver City, California, which created the MCP, Sark's Carrier, and the Solar Sailor. Magi of Elmsford, New York, which created the Light Cycle sequence, Clues Tank, and the Recognizer Pursuit scene. Robert Abel and Associates of California, which created the Real World to Game Grid transition effects, and Digital Effects of New York City, which animated Bit and created the Tron creation sequence at the beginning of the movie.
And what's astounding is to bring that many different talented groups together to create a harmonious art style.
And I would like to point out that all the computers they used, if you were to combine them all together, would have less processing power than the cell phone I'm reading these notes off of.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Because, this is one of the Wang Film Productions did all the 2D animation, including all of the background plates and all of the backlit animation.
Okay.
Now, backlit animation, I'm sure you're like me, had no idea what that was. So what they did for this film is when they're for all the in-computer sequences, all the actors wore a white jumpsuit with the circuitry being black. The sets were black with white accents. And this was filmed in black and white.
Yes.
Transferred to a high contrast black and white film that's about the size of this table. Then they would composite the shots that way with the colors shining up through a light table to get the light coming through the circuitry. That's why you kind of get that weird little... the best way I know how to describe it is the light in those circuitries never matches the light anywhere else in the film,
Well,
which
it
is a cool effect.
It also explains the dimness of the movie.
Right. And the fact that there's a lot of more grain on the actors than there is anywhere else in the
That is
film.
true.
Yeah.
In those sequences. In fact, all of the actors, they had to print the all the footage of them onto animation cells. There were 3 plates, one of their bodies, one of their face, and one of their eyes, so that each one could be lit differently, so they would it would look better on the screen.
Gotcha.
Makes sense.
And all that had to be animated like traditional cell animation.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This was a tedious movie to make.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and also you'll note that there's none of the 3D and 2D imagery is on screen at the same time.
That's a good point. That is a good point.
There's only 15 to 20 minutes of computer animation. At the time, computers could only create static images and not put them in motion.
Yes.
All the coordinates for each object had to be entered by hand for each frame. And it took 600 of these coordinates to get 4 seconds of film.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And
So this
get
was
past
a
and there's I'm going to get into just a touch more trivia. you'll note, those of you watching on the live stream, you'll note I've got a little Pac-Man guy right over here. He has a cameo.
Yes,
More
yes,
than just the sound effects in Flynn's arcade.
Yes.
He is on the wall in
the command carrier.
In the command
Yeah.
carrier,
Yes.
which is hilarious.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. Actually, that's not the only little
There's
Easter egg.
a lot of Easter eggs, but that's
Yeah.
the most obvious one to find.
My favorite Easter egg was when Bruce Boxleitner goes to his office,
Oh yes.
and on the side of his office is Barata Nikto. Anyway, it's
from When the Earth Stood Still.
yeah, which is one of my favorite old sci-fi movies.
Oh yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Would you believe I've not watched either of those movies?
May I?
I'm not going to watch the new
strongly. No,
I'm not going to watch the new one. I know better.
No, go back.
Proof that the new one is bad is the fact that the only way you could buy it was to also buy it in a combo pack with the old one.
Wow. Okay, so yes, take the time, go watch the original, The Day the Earth Stood Still. It is one of the most classic black and white sci-fis of all time. It's wonderful, and it's withstood the test of time. It's really withstood the test of time.
I believe the phrase you were looking for was Klaatu Barada Nikto.
Yes, Klaatu Barata Nikto. Yes, how could I forget that?
I had to stop and think about it.
Well, yeah.
And think back to Evil
Yes,
Dead.
but that was right there on the side of his. Yeah, so that was one of those good Easter eggs.
Yes.
And also, we can't forget the always very famous Hidden Mickey.
Oh, yes. There's a major hidden Mickey in this one.
Huge.
Okay, what's the hidden Mickey?
Okay, when they're in the Solar Sailor,
Yeah.
that first scene, and you see the Solar Sailor move from the left-hand side of the screen to the right, and the camera pans to follow it. Look at the ground. And there is a very detailed silhouette of Mickey Mouse's head while he's in mid-speech.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I will
It
have
is
to-
the best hidden Mickey you will ever find, because it is there. You would not see it if you didn't know to look for it, but it's painfully obvious when
Yes.
you know to look for it.
I'm going to have to go back and watch this. Okay.
Yes. Just other bits of information. Because of the way the filming worked, it would take most of those shots with the backlit animation. Would take about 12 passes on the camera for them to composite it, except for the interior of the tank. 50 passes to get all that.
And
Wow.
the interiors of the tank are some of the best shots,
Yes.
in my opinion. Those were great shots.
Also, the coloration of blue for the good guys and red for the bad guys was not set in stone during the early parts of filming. That's why Clue is red at the beginning of the movie.
Well, actually, he's orange. He's orange.
He is orange, but the tank is red. If at the end he should be blue in both cases.
Yeah.
Also, some of the programs working on Sark's carrier are kind of a teal green.
Well, so are all the tank crews.
Yeah,
Tank
because
crews are all
all that
green.
was filmed before they decided that the animation was done before they decided that the character that blue was good and red was bad.
Yeah. Well, actually, I like it because it added a little bit more diversity and you got the idea that there was more than. Actually, that's one of the hidden gems of this film is it suggests a larger world than we get to see.
Mm-hmm.
True.
There are a number of scenes where characters are introduced or shown and suggested, and you kind of want to know more about them, but they deny you getting to see them.
Yes.
And I like that. I like that because it suggests a much larger world than what the camera shows us.
So was that going to be your first like?
No, not at all.
Okay, well then why don't you give us your first like? Unless you
okay.
got something?
Well, I do have something.
Okay.
Well, very early on in production, like they said, they shot in like black with white. Mm-hmm. They actually, beginning, they did the reverse. It was white with black.
Well, yeah, because they had but it was still black and white film.
Yes, I agree with you, but the set itself was highly lit. So
That's right, because they wanted it to match what was that movie? THX 1138. That's
Yes.
what they were
Exactly.
inspired by. That was the one inspiration I could find. Is it was inspired by THX 1138, which was that first film that George Lucas did. Mm-hmm. But they found that was too expensive to light that way, so they switched it.
yeah, and one of the reasons why they switched it,
It's easier to animate,
and plus they had a burnout.
that wouldn't surprise me.
They blew a breaker. They didn't blow just their breaker. They blew the entire Los Angeles area's breaker.
Nice.
They were using that much power.
I assume they were told not to do that again.
That's why they switched to black with white
Exactly.
accents.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So, yeah,
my
your first like.
my first like. So this was a hard pick because I'm a huge fan of this film, and that will definitely come out if you don't figure out why I talk about it right now from how I rate it. So my first major like, and the reason this is my major like, is that I really feel that this one moment is the defining moment in the entire movie.
Okay.
And I promise you both missed it.
Okay.
Shoot.
It's the door.
Which door?
The door. The giant.
Oh, the big door.
The big door.
I remember that.
When they opened the big door, and
Yes.
and I'm telling,
it's there because of the laser, I assume.
well, we're not really told why that is, and
outside of the Cold War,
right. Well, actually, and that's what it is. That has got to be a nuclear blast door.
Oh, yeah.
There's no other explanation for a 5-foot thick door. Okay, but the reason I'm telling you that is the pivotal moment in this movie is that door defines this whole movie.
Okay,
because that is a door that you cannot open by force. That is a door specifically designed not to be opened by a nuclear blast. Okay, and Flynn opens it with a 2-ounce electronic card, and
that is brilliant.
And it begins to show that the computer age is arriving. And it's going to change how we do everything.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, that's brilliant.
Because what does Flynn say right after that? They never should have fired me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the entire point. But it's also telling the audience, because you have to understand, this is 1982, and the audience does not understand computers.
No.
And they don't understand computers in 1999. I was working in an electronic retail store in 1999.
I'd be willing to say they don't understand computers in 2021.
Well, they don't.
But
They don't. But at least now we know what they can do. But even in 1999, the majority of Americans were getting their very first computers and didn't really know what you do with a computer, except the grandkids wanted you to get on the internet and email them. But in 1982, nobody's talking internet. Nobody's talking computers. You know, computers are still this weird thing that nobody knows what to do with. And this movie is telling us for the very first time that computers open massive doors. They do things that human beings could not previously do. And that computers are very important. And that's why the door is my first major pick.
Okay.
Because that door represents the future. And computers, and only computers, can open it.
Fascinating. Really, that's deep. That is incredibly deep. Kind of adding to that scene.
It's deeper than we normally are.
It's so deep. Exactly. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That was incredible.
I think the last time we were this deep was when I brought up the red light in Goofy Movie.
True. Very true. Apparently, during the making of the film, the actress who, what was her name?
The main actress?
Yeah.
Get back up there. Cindy Morgan.
Cindy Morgan. Okay, so during production, there was a nuclear spill. Like someone had spilled some nuclear waste. And so it was close to that big blast door. So they had roped the area off, what have you. And so Cindy apparently is not paying attention to what she's doing, and she steps into the hazard area. And so she has
then she couldn't film the rest of the movie.
Well, she had to wait.
Should have been.
She had to wait 45 minutes standing completely still until they completely cleared off her clothing for 45 minutes. I thought that was fascinating.
Well, that was the Cold War for you.
That is
pretty
so
much.
true. That is so true.
Nuclear weapons aren't fun.
No, they're not. Definitely when you get them on your clothes.
So my first like for this movie is gonna have to be the music throughout the entire movie. This is I am not a humongous fan of synthesizer music because most of the time it sounds, well, to me it sounds boring most of the time, believe it or not. But I prefer stuff with more melody and stuff. But this thing, it has melody. This is stuff I can hum along to regularly. Some movie scores you really can't do that with. But this is a fun score. Both at least the One Journey song I recognize, the Only Solutions, was a nice little rockin' song. You can hear it when they're in the arcade. Is when you hear it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the main place you hear that one. But and of course I love the arcade. I wish I had that arcade.
Yeah, I wish I had been. I wish I
I
had
wish
been.
I had access to that arcade.
I wish I had been old enough in the '80s to go to an arcade because
I wish there were arcades when I was growing up.
Yeah,
because they were already gone by that time.
right. They were. That was
Yeah.
that was a thing of the past.
Yeah, but I'm outside of the pizza parlor. But anyway, and I think it was an old one. Anyway, I love the music in this. It's nice. It's a lot of fun music, and
It sets the mood.
It sets the mood.
Really sets the
It's-
mood.
And while it is synthesizer, I swear they got an orchestra playing along with it. I can't tell you how they worked that. I can't even tell you they did that.
Yeah.
Except I think I saw
Well, Disney
London
would cer-
Philharmonic Orchestra listed
Well,
in the
Disney
credits.
would have access to that. So.
They would.
It would.
But I mean, it was really, really good music, and I enjoyed the heck out of it.
All
Your
right,
first
so
like, Jacob?
my first like would be the visual creativity of this film. You have so
Absolutely.
much of like yes, you have so many minutes of like what was it? 15. It was like 15 minutes.
15 to 20 minutes. I could not get any place to actually
Yeah.
pin that down to
But-
an exact number.
Yeah, but watching the film, the first thing that really hit me was the tank scene where you have it'd be like you go inside the tank and it's this rotating 360-degree scene where you have be like you're having to use backlighting effect and visual like practical effects and just the amount of detail they went into this and the fact that they had to go and matte paint every single scene in order to bring in the color into it because there again everything was shot in black and white. Just the amount of detail and just care and love they put into this film is absolutely breathtaking. Now, if you're someone from like a later generation that's watching this movie, it's just like, man, this looks boring. This looks like a boring film, and I can't deny you that, but understanding.
I don't know how you could think this.
Boring,
No,
but-
it's an action film. It's
Yeah,
it's
and
not
it's
boring.
colorful. It's,
I-
far
very
more,
colorful,
it's
yeah.
far
with you.
more colorful than Legacy is.
Yes, actually, Legacy was more black and white.
Yeah.
For a reason. Who knows? Either way, I just the visual storytelling of this film, of how they created it, how like how many companies were involved in this movie, and just it was so incredibly just watching the story unfold. Definitely when you're within the world of the computer is just mind blowing how detailed they got in. Definitely for a film in 1982. And it was just, there again, mind-blowing. So, yeah, the visual effects of this film is just mind-blowing.
Okay.
All right.
Your second like.
All right, my second has to be the world building.
Okay.
And again, this kind of dovetails back to my first like, but it's simply this, that nobody knows what a computer is. Nobody knows how they work.
Right.
And Tron is the movie that takes us inside a computer, and it doesn't really explain how computers work. But when you get done with the movie, you kind of feel like you know how computers work. They're no
So
longer
you
a
actually pick up a computer textbook.
well, right, exactly. But this movie in a way made computers an everyday thing. You have to understand, in '82, not everybody owned a computer. It's going to be almost 20 years before everybody in America owns a computer. And so Tron was the first one that demystified computers and made them relatable. It was the first movie that made computers relatable. And I really think that there was probably a driving vision behind for that very purpose, because that's no accident. It's no accident that Tron demystifies computers and makes them relatable and cool. And I think that's because whoever wrote this understood that computers were going to be the future. They may not have understood how they were going to be the future, but they also knew that needed to get people to stop being scared of them, because people were scared of computers in the 80s. Nobody knew what computers, and point of fact, we see some of that early fear in the MCP, which I wish more people would pay attention to that now that we're actually trying to develop artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So my second like is got to be the light cycle sequence.
Oh, yes.
That is a fun trip. That if you want to talk about something I want to see in theaters again, it's this light cycle sequence. I saw the other one. It's not as interesting to me as the one in Legacy, but this one you're going, oh, I actually feel the tension in this scene.
Yeah.
Because you don't know when that light cycle is going to take a 90-degree turn in front of you.
Yeah.
And when it happens, you're dead.
Well, and the fact that they are taking 90-degree turns.
You're derezed.
You're derezed.
Yeah, derezed.
But no, you actually are taking 90-degree turns, which keeps reinforcing that, this is a computer.
Yes. Now, the thing that kills it for me is when you see the screen form of it there at the beginning and you realize it's Snake.
That's okay.
But I can live with that because inside the game, it's like, okay, this is awesome.
Well, and you get Jeff Bridges' little comment on the other side of the screen. It's so much easier.
So, and it is. And I love how their escape from the game grid that way, where you get this. What's really cool about that scene is you can if you're actually watching, you can see the whole form as it goes deeper in.
Yeah.
It's not just hit and there's a hole there, which is your first thought when you look at it.
Right.
But if you're watching, you can see the gradation go all the way out.
Yeah,
And it's like
that
took work.
It's a tunnel. It's a massive
They actually
tunnel.
made a tunnel and it works. It's not. Admittedly, I look at this and my brain is thinking Reboot Logic, the show.
Yeah, right.
Which didn't have this budget. And so if they did that, it really would just be a hole that shows up because they ran into a wall. No, this, you can actually see that the remains of that light cycle tunnel all the way through the wall before it goes off into the deep, dark abyss of whatever that is.
Yes.
Falls off the hard drive, let's
That's
say.
null sector. Null sector.
Yeah, null sector.
Null
That's
sector.
what that is.
Okay.
Jacob, since Drew's laughing.
All right.
Yeah, what is your second like?
My second like would be Rams. What is terminology for their death?
Derez.
Derez. His derez was it was touching. It was touching the fact to be like
That was a very touching scene.
It was.
And a lot of movies don't have touching death scenes.
Yeah.
No, it's
especially when you realize he realizes he's met his God.
Yeah.
In essence.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I didn't really care for Ram through the whole movie until he dies.
Yeah. That's really like 90% of the reason for his character, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is. But I'm just simply saying, as a character, he didn't really register until he died. And when he died, it was like, wow, that was an awesome guy.
Yeah.
And I didn't like him until he died, which is sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found his derezing just very touching and very moving. The fact to be like Ram is simply just a program. He's a program that has been programmed to do something that has been hijacked in a way to be.
Well, he was
It was an accounting program.
He was an accounting.
Yeah, he
program.
was he worked for an insurance company.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how he knew about all that, I don't know. But anyway,
Yeah. It's like, I don't think programs work that way.
Yeah.
right.
If
But
anything, you should just be an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
but he was still, it was relatable. He was relatable.
Yeah.
Well, there is a bit of creative liberty with these characters.
Yes.
To make it,
A lot.
that's what kind of program you are. Okay.
Right,
And
right.
plus, this is still the age when computers are a form of magic in many ways.
Oh, as you said, that still persists today with a lot of people. I mean, you can anybody tell me exactly how accessing the internet and getting information from the internet works?
Well, there's a TCP/IP protocol, and it puts it into little packets about, was it like 32 kilobytes long? And I do actually know more than y'all probably care.
Yes, you do. Shush.
Is it just like just push enter?
All I know is cat pictures.
Now, if Tron 3 comes out, there needs to be a whole complaint about cat pictures. There really does.
Yes.
That would make
No,
it
sad
all.
thing is I'm afraid Tron 3 has come out, and we called it Ralph Breaks the Internet.
I could go with this.
Yes.
All right, so you gave your third like?
Second. Yes.
Second like? Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
So now we do have to talk about things we don't like about the movie.
Yes.
Your first.
Okay,
Chase.
this was hard because again, this is one of my all-time favorite movies. It's a childhood favorite, but it's not a perfect movie, and there's things that I wanted more of, and one of the things that I wanted more of, I wanted more Bit.
Yes.
Bit had a bit part, and he
Nice,
did.
nice.
He really did. And I wanted to see more of Bit, because Bit obviously had a personality and he had intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how that intelligence was communicated through yes and no. But I wanted more Bit, and I really felt like he was introduced more as a concept than a character, even though he obviously was a character. And I just wanted him to do more.
I personally think that character was introduced with the idea of it being a bigger character until they had to animate it.
Okay, I could possibly see that.
Because even though it's a simple animation compared to some of the other things in this, it's a lot of animation still to keep it on screen for so long. And like we said, you can't have Bit and him on screen at the same time.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good point.
Because
so
of the break in technology.
Right.
That unfortunate.
But
that's
even when he shows up in the second one, he's not around very long. And I didn't appreciate that either. So I wanted to see more Bit.
Okay.
Bit was interesting. And I don't know.
Okay. My first dislike is a nitpick beyond all nitpicks. Here's the thing. When the MCP talks to Dillinger, I can work it into my mind that there are speakers worked into that desk because obviously he's got the big money. His terminal has all the bells and whistles. I can kind of get that some experimental sound technology is built into that desk for that time period in order to synthesize the MCP's voice.
If I become a mega CEO, I want that desk.
True. I want that desk without that. But anyway, what I'd like to know is how is that MCP's voice working at her workstation down by the laser? You shouldn't be able to hear his voice down there.
No.
That is a limitation of the hardware, which the MCP can't really help. And yet you hear his voice perfectly. Like
Yeah.
Like I said, I can buy into the fact that maybe Dillinger has something where you can hear the voice. Can't really buy that into down by the experimental laser.
Especially when it's talking to you conversationally.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not computerized speech there. That is a conversational statement. Sit right there, Flynn. Make yourself comfortable.
You get the feeling down there that he can hear Flynn talk, which, why would you have a microphone down there by the giant laser?
Right. No idea.
Honestly, why is her only terminal in direct aim of that laser? That's a good question there. I would like to think she had other terminals she could use.
Plot point.
Yeah.
I know.
And that's the only reason it's there, it's a plot point.
I wish they'd have said, we'll use my terminal that's down there because if we go up there where Alan is, you'll get caught and thrown out of the building. That would make more sense.
Right.
Because I assume she's got a computer
But it
up
still,
there
it still doesn't answer why the laser is pointed or square at your back. Because
that's a good
because
question,
because
that's an OSHA violation if there ever was one.
yes,
Sure.
that is.
Also, it's called plot convenience.
I know it's plot convenience.
Yeah, it's plot convenience, but it is definitely an
but
OSHA
it's
violation.
It's an obvious plot convenience, which you should stay away from when making movies.
Right.
That is
By the
true.
way, do y'all know that's a real laser?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's I looked up somewhere. It says it's the Shiva laser they use to measure the interior of the sun. So that whole laser complex is a real laser.
Yeah, that's
Really?
why the big giant door was there in the first place, because that was the actual door in that laser complex.
Okay, I did not know that.
Interesting. Okay. So
They paid a lot of money to be down there to film that.
wow.
Well,
Anyway.
as sets go, you can't ask for more.
It was the most realistic set in the movie.
Yes.
It's strange how that was more realistic than the arcade. Anyway, Jacob,
All
your
right,
first
so
dislike.
My first dislike. There again, it's a nitpick, and I feel like they didn't flesh this part out where Flynn becomes the CEO.
Okay, the movie's end is rushed. I
Yes.
agree.
Yes,
I agree.
The very end of this film, very, very rushed. It's like Flynn gets out of the computer, and the next thing you know, he's CEO.
Yeah, and because Dillinger didn't just become CEO,
Right.
but I'm willing to overlook this. And
Honestly, I think that last scene is not important.
I agree.
They could have left that out and it would have changed nothing about the movie.
Right.
But they still included it.
But it's more satisfying.
Yeah.
It is more satisfying to
I-
see him as the CEO. And I agree with you. It doesn't make sense. I agree with you. It's too abrupt. But I still like it, even though I completely agree with your nitpick.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if it's because I have not seen Tron Legacy. I don't know if they explain that or not.
No.
No, there's no explanation.
There's
But they
a
do follow. They
There's
do.
a 20-year gap.
Okay.
Yeah,
We get one little bit of explanation as to
just lost track of time.
why. Yeah, we get one explanation as to how that world is working, but that's it.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's a pretty giant plot element there, but I'm not going to go there right now.
Okay. Yeah.
Guys, just for the record, we're down to one viewer. I've got
Actually,
one
you're
more
wrong.
person to get rid of.
It's up
You're
to
wrong. It
2.
just went up to 2.
Oh,
Yes.
dadgummit.
Okay,
I'm trying
so,
here,
All right,
people.
so
I
it
am
was-
trying.
So when I saw that, it was just more like, okay, we need a little more detail here because I know it's the very end of the film, and it was cool seeing Flynn come out of the chopper, but it was like, then why is he CEO? That just that I was left baffled. I was like, okay, what the world? But it was the satisfying conclusion that the guy who tried so hard to get the proof he needed, now he's CEO of the company. I get it, but how did he become CEO?
Right.
That's
Well,
the thing.
it's a happy ending, and
and honestly, if you tried to give that explanation in that short amount of time,
yeah,
that would have felt even more unsatisfying.
yeah,
Agreed.
It would have felt clunky.
Yeah.
And so at least this lets you fill in the gap yourself, which
Yeah.
which I agree there's a gap there, but it makes for a nice ending.
Yes.
Agreed.
And you have to realize that from the moment he leaves the computer, this movie just chops off.
It does.
Yeah, that's
Quite
really
literally.
the end of the movie, is when he leaves the computer, and he gets. They could have, for me, they could have stopped it as soon as they printed off the proof. Even though I look at that and go, anyone could have typed that.
Yeah.
Well,
How do you
but-
prove that came from the program?
well, because it's on every mainframe. It's in the mainframe.
Yeah.
It was just a printout of what the mainframe itself was now displaying. So
But
the
yeah,
whole
that's just a weird
the whole
thing.
mainframe. Yeah, I agree with, because that was my first thought. But then I realized, no, wait a minute. The mainframe is now revealing this information because the master control program's gone.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Your second dislike. sir.
okay, my second dislike is probably my biggest dislike of this whole movie, because I think it has a major negative impact on most of the scenes of the movie. The helmets. The
You mean
helmet.
hockey helmets.
Yeah, the hockey
Yes.
helmets. And
It's
the
that's one of the things I actually like about Legacy is they got rid of the helmets.
yes, and that's important because, well, the same reason why in anime you can tell characters apart by their hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you do the same thing in real life too.
Yeah.
And when you just see the faces in some of the action sequences, it's hard to tell who's driving some of the cars.
Yeah. 'Cause
And-
the only other distinguishing feature you have is the circuitry patterns.
Right. Which is, I'm glad they did that.
Yeah, but at the same time,
It's not enough.
Yeah.
you can't tell in the scene where they're bringing up the bars to start the light cycle
Mm-hmm.
sequence. If you're looking at that quick, you can't tell who's who.
No.
Yeah,
You can't
no.
tell the difference between Flynn, Rom, or
I couldn't tell who was driving.
Ram or
And
Tron.
Yeah.
That was my problem through the whole light cycle scene. I want to know who's driving which car, and I don't.
Yeah,
And so, but the helmets really robbed a lot of the characters of personality that they needed, and it was one of the things that they changed in Legacy that I thought was a good move.
I wonder if part of the reason they decided to have the helmets, because they even had her. She didn't have the girl.
She
didn't
had a
have the
skull
helmet,
cap,
She had a
yeah.
skull cap. I wonder if because of the high contrast filmmaking process they had to use, they couldn't.
Well, that's a
Have the
possibility.
hair.
That's a possibility.
I'm wondering if that's a technical problem they had to
Yeah.
overcome, and that's just what they had to do.
So anyway, it was it was just one of those things that I felt detracted from the film, only
Mm-hmm.
because it made it difficult at times to identify the characters.
Right.
Now, I would say 90% of the scenes, there's no issue.
Right.
But there are those handful of scenes where it's like, I can't spot the main character in the line. I can't spot, there's 10 guys, which one of them's which. They got a little too similar at times. And so that's my complaint. Now, that's still a nitpick. That's an
Yeah.
absolute nitpick. But it was one of the bigger flaws of the movie.
My second dislike is the grid bugs.
Really.
There is no reason for the grid bugs to work in this story.
That's true. That is
Because
true.
they
They
show
serve
up,
no purpose.
They're on the screen for a grand total of 10 seconds, and most of that is their introductory scene.
I like them.
They're cool looking. Do not get
they're
me
very
wrong.
cool. But you're right. They're totally
But
fine.
they're completely pointless.
Except one line of dialogue that says,
and her one line of dialogue is pointed to explain what you're looking at.
right, which is, we'll be
And
we'll be in big trouble if the grid bugs get us. Well,
Yes, it's
how are
like-
they going to reach you?
Yeah, it's like what is, And don't get me wrong, the animation is cool, but it's when you've been looking at this groundbreaking new 3D computer process, and now you're looking at 2D images that are trying to pretend to be 3D. It just stands out like a sore thumb.
I thought
mean,
they were cute.
They're cute. Don't get me wrong. They're cute. But I'm looking at it and going, they have no reason to exist.
No.
Their introduction is not as polished as the rest of the movie.
And they serve no functional
And they serve
purpose.
no function.
Yeah. I'm with you.
So, yeah, the grid bugs are one of those things where I look at it, I see the scene, and I just go,
But
there's 10 seconds of my life I'm not getting back.
Well, but they're also part of something I like about the movie, that the movie suggests this whole world outside of what we get to see.
Right, but the entire thing where they're worried about the grid bugs, like we say, is about maybe 10 seconds long at most.
Yeah.
Introduce the grid bugs when you first get onto the Solar Sailor, so you're running from the grid bugs so they don't catch you, and that's the real big problem with Sark's command ship coming up to catch you. And
Because it was slower. The whole movie is slower, and then it somehow gets ahead of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
It's a nitpick. It's one of those things where I will ignore it the next time I watch.
Of
outside
course.
That
But you'll be
doesn't look as
thinking
good as
about
I
it.
like.
You will be
It's that
thinking
thing
about it.
It's that bug in the back of my mind.
A
It's
grid
like,
bug.
Yeah, grid bug. I could be going, I could be better.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. They're totally pointless, except for the fact that they add more ambience to the movie.
True.
And that's the thing, because you kind of get the weird idea this is this whole desert, and that was
And
something.
It's nice to know there's some life out there, even though I have to think this is a computer. There has to be a reason for every single object to be there. What is the reason for the grid bugs? Oh, wait a minute. I actually know this, because I just realized this. They're computer viruses.
Yes, yes, you just now figuring that out.
It never occurred to me, but at the same time, why are they in the desert? There's nothing for them to hit out there.
That's because
outside of the passing solar sailor every 5 seconds, switching a computer is actually longer than real life.
Yeah, no idea. All right,
Anyway,
Jacob.
All right. My second dislike would be. Now, granted, this is more. I'm really wishing they could have done more with the movie. The fact that it'd be like this was visually stunning, but the fact that like the movie bombed in theaters, it took so long for this film to be, I wouldn't say recognized, but it was almost a disappointment that the movie didn't do better than it should
Well,
have.
it's not going to, and the reason is the movie was so far ahead of its time.
I agree with you on that.
And notice the people that love it, people that saw it at 10.
Yeah.
Now imagine you're 40 years old and trying to watch this in the 1982.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to you.
It's the Star Wars problem.
Yeah.
If you were young when this kind of story was
Yeah,
out,
I would agree.
You're fine. I guarantee you, part of the reason I like this, even though I was not born when it came out, and did not see it until I was in my 20s,
Right.
was because of Reboot over there.
Right.
Because I loved Reboot, and this is essentially pre-Reboot.
That is
Right,
true.
right.
This
No.
could easily exist in the same universe as Reboot.
Oh, yeah, very, very easily. Very easily.
Yeah, because one of the main reasons, because I'd never heard of this film until they started Tron Legacy, and they started talking about this Tron thing. I was like, what in the world is this Tron? And so be like, you start learning more and more about it, and it's like, oh, okay. And see, watching clips from it, it's like, that doesn't really look interesting. Now, granted, I was already in my nearly 20s at the time when I heard this, and
Actually, the first time I heard of Tron was in my Theater 1 textbook in high school.
wow,
Because they had pictures from this, and I remember going, this looks awesome.
And that was
What
it.
is this? And you could look, for some reason, it never said Tron. Otherwise, I'd have gone and looked for Tron and see what this was. But
Yeah.
they would show some of those landscapes for set design.
Yes, and
And I'm
the
looking at
set
going,
design is incredible.
"Ooh, this is amazing. Though, of course, the book's not saying this is two-dimensional art made to look like 3D.
Right. Well, we take so much for granted now that they had to create from
Yes.
scratch.
oh yeah,
And that's the brilliance of this is that they're actually doing 3D art with 2D.
yeah.
And they're doing it before the 3D art was even possible.
Oh
yes.
yeah, just pure like creativity, just genius.
Yeah, this and again, this is a movie that was so far ahead of its time, but it
it's
also
doing-
became a definitional movie.
It's
Yes.
doing 3D back when the closest thing you had to a 3D animated thing was the game. Was it Battle Tanks? Is that the name of it?
I vaguely remember Battle Tanks,
the
but
3D tank battle game. I can't remember the name.
okay,
of it.
but most of the 3D,
that's a
3D,
wireframe.
but not even in 1982.
No, not. But that's the closest I can think of.
Yeah, I
To
mean, you get the
the
original.
visuals
The
of
original
this.
Elite game was a wireframe 3D game, but
That was much later.
much later. We're talking late 80s, 87 probably before those even became available. And so, yeah, you're way ahead of your time. This movie is, it's hard to explain how
Battle Zone. Sorry.
Battlezone. Okay,
That name was gonna bug me if I couldn't think of it.
right. Well, this movie is just so far ahead of its time.
It was. It was.
And the visuals in a way have never been reproduced.
No,
Which
That is true.
I agree. They've become the Tron visuals, so you can't reuse them in some regard.
not even Tron Legacy reproduces the look of this film.
It really doesn't.
To the point where they had to make for Tron Legacy had to make a lore reason why it doesn't look like this film.
Yeah, and I think they could have invested a little bit more effort to do that, but they chose not to. That was obviously a choice. Yeah, so I feel like we need to. I feel like we need to do the other movie now because
At some point, but not immediately.
not immediately.
Give it a year.
Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, no, that's a valid dislike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That brings us to the end of our likes and dislikes. So now we need to rate this thing. Now, way we rate, in case you don't know,
all right,
is we rate on a 10-point scale, allowing for half points.
okay,
So you can rate it a 2, you can rate it a 3.5,
okay,
but you can't rate it a 2.25. You know
okay,
what I mean?
gotcha.
So what are you rating this film?
I have no choice. I must rate this a 10.5.
We're going to round that down
Yeah,
to a 10.
Okay, that's called in computer terms, guys. That's called being truncated.
In computer terms, you just tried to stack overflow,
Yes. All right. So, which is why things get truncated.
which is why technically I should say, okay, so you're rating it a 0.5.
No. That's Y2K logic.
It worked for Pac-Man.
All right. No, it has to be a 10 because this is the very reason this movie failed is the reason this movie is a success. It was looking forward, not backwards.
That's true.
And this movie shows a vision of the future where computers are changing the world in 1982 before they did it almost 20 years later. Because you got to realize, until the internet came, computers did not change the way we lived.
No.
But once the internet came, it changed the way business worked. It changed the way communication worked. It changed the way we viewed our country. And this movie is prophesying a lot of that. And it's just a fun movie on top of it, and just beautiful.
Yes.
And the world building is astounding.
I see your point, and I want to rate it as high as you did. However, I'm going to have to come down to 9.5.
Grid bugs, right?
The grid bugs are not the main problem here. They're a
It's okay.
part of the
you
pie.
can admit it. You can admit it.
They're part of that pie that's bringing it down. No, it's just there is a part of me that looks at it and goes, I know this isn't how computers work because I've worked with computers every single day of my life. This is not I can't merge the way this shows computers working and the way I know computers work.
You're just upset that you don't fit in a light cycle.
There is that too. I don't know. That one guy was not too much bigger than I was. And I'm sure the way that works, just give me the extra large model.
You what? They had the
I'll take
four
the
wheelers. They had the four wheelers. Yeah.
Like the four-wheelers. But it's just that, keep in mind, 9.5 is still right up there.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just small little itty-bitty things keeping me from rating it a perfect 10 out of 10.
Okay.
So I'm going to stick at 9.5. Because
All
this
right.
is definitely a movie I love.
Okay. So my rating is going to be like a 4.0.
And that's where our friendship ends.
hang on, Jacob. I think you've gotten confused. This is not Movie of the Week podcast. We do rate on the 10-point scale, not the 5-star scale.
No, I kid. I'm definitely going to give this movie like about an 8.5. 8.5. It's still a good movie, not because if we're going from the from the scale we use, like if I was to give it a 5, it's like middle of the road kind of film. Give it a higher 8. It's still a great film. I do see the problems with the film. The fact that it wasn't a film for a much larger, grander audience. That it focused, the 10-year-olds, the 9-year-olds, those people that were inspired by the film to become technicians and computer analysts and what have you. This movie is not for everybody. This movie won't be for everybody. And that's probably the sad part of the film is that not everybody's going to be able to enjoy this. So, and the visuals in this movie, the way they created everything in this film was spectacular. And it was groundbreaking for its time. And just, it's sad that not everybody's been able to enjoy this film. They probably will never enjoy it. So
it's a specialty film in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it
really is. I mean, it's not the kind of movie that, well, your Western fans are just not going to enjoy it. You know,
Yeah, that is very true.
Agreed.
And your mystery fans are not going to enjoy it. And and it's an action science fiction, and science fiction has always been a niche thing, and it will always be a niche thing. Because it appeals to those people that are forward-looking and are imaginative, and this is one of the most imaginative films ever made.
I agree.
Agreed. So that's why I give it an 8.5.
Okay.
You are an animal.
We know this. Do you remember how much he barks?
I forgot.
All right. That brings us to the end of another episode of the Cellcast. Come, Jacob. We must prepare for next week.
Prepare for what, Drew?
The same thing we do every week, Jacob. Record a podcast.
Oh, boy.
Do you have anything you wish to promote, Jace?
Of course, I've got something I wish to promote. I'm a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Of course, I'm going to promote something.
I knew that.
Just don't bring up election.
Later.
Jacob, we were this close.
Another time.
There is one good news, gentlemen. One good news only, and that is the gospel. There is a God.
Yes.
Man has rebelled against God. But God was not pleased to let it sit like that, so he sent his Son, Jesus Christ, so that who should ever believe upon him should not perish, but have everlasting life. That's the one thing I'm going to promote.
You know what? I'm good with that.
Yep.
In fact,
Amen,
I
brother.
actually do want to thank you for being the first person to actually actively say the gospel on the
There
show.
we go. Thank
Which
you.
means I should have done it before now. But anyway, that does bring us to the end. This has been Drew.
This is Jacob.
And this is Chase, and I failed to wreck the show. There's still 2 of you left.
And we will catch you in the next frame.
Goodbye.
So where can they find you, Jacob?
You can find me on Facebook at Jacob B. Heron, also on Facebook at Jacob's Daily Art Corner, where I try to draw each and every day. I don't get to it as often as I like, but join me there. Also, you can find me on Instagram at Jacob B. Heron, on Twitter at Jacob Heron, and Letterboxd at Jacob Heron. So where can they find you, Drew?
You can also follow me on Letterboxd at GGeorge759, Facebook as Drew Dodgen, my Facebook page where you can see pictures I've taken at Drew's Photo Bin. You can also follow me on Twitter at GGeorge759.
You can email us at thecellcastpodcast@gmail.com.
You can also follow us on Twitter at cast_cell.
You can follow us on Twitch at twitch.tv/thecellcastgaming.
You can also follow us on YouTube at Cellcast,
Listen to our podcast on Apple Podcasts,
Google Play Podcasts,
Stitcher,
Spotify.
and your favorite podcast directory.
You can also listen to us on the Movie of the Week podcast with Jim Heron, where we talk about live action movies. And remember, Cell is a single L.